I would say that I actually looked like a little bit of a scaredy cat when you add it all up, because like did the fire department, had the leave of absence safety net, so there really was no risk there. And then when you say leave to do comedy, like I was already on a hit show for 5 seasons, so that safety net was there. You know what I mean? They ordered season 6 and 7, so we knew we were doing another 50 something episodes of the TV show. So really, it was like pretty safe lily pad to lily pad. Yeah.
Welcome back to another episode of Second Act Stories. I'm your host today, Scott Merritt.
And I'm Andy Levine, co-host of today's episode. Scott, you had a chance to sit down with a guy named Brian Quinn, who's been remarkably successful on the small screen. Tell us a little about that interview.
Brian Quinn, or as he's known on Impractical Jokers, Q, has had such an interesting journey. He actually started his career as an FDNY fireman, and his plan was to work his 25 years, get his pension, retire comfortably, and then something incredible happened. He became one of the biggest comedy stars on TV today, and even still, he says he'd rather write than perform.
So for our listeners who aren't fans of truTV and maybe have been living under a rock, tell us a little about the success of Impractical Jokers and just the format of the show.
Sure. They're in season 10 now. It's been wildly successful. It effectively follows 4 guys who became friends in high school, and they're all hilariously funny, and they do funny things, and they challenge each other to do funny things. And it works really well. Everybody loves them, and there's a good reason for it. They're just so funny. You don't have to think. You don't have to really, sit down and study. You can tune in and just get ready for a laugh.
Well, let's hear about Brian Quinn's second act story.
So let's start talking about Monsignor Farrell High School. That's where you met the friends that you became successful with today.
Yeah.
How'd you guys come together?
Well, I was so Monsignor Farrell High School is a old boys Catholic high school on Staten Island, and it's very small classes. I think our graduating class was like 250 people. So you kind of get to know everybody, you know what I mean, over the 4 years. But with Sal and Murray in particular, they started doing some of the like acting clubs type stuff, like the plays or like comedy shows and whatnot. And I met those guys through there, and then eventually Joe through there as well.
What was your interest? Were you acting? Were you in a comedy club?
My interest was girls, and we were an old boys Catholic high school, and if you did the plays, then you were guaranteed time with the girls from the sister school came over to play the female roles.
Were you guys funny in high school? Were you known as class clowns or anything like that?
No, Joe definitely. Joe was always up to something. I don't think I was known. I had a small group of friends, just hung out with them, and like wasn't really class clownish or anything like that.
How did you wind your way to improv comedy?
Well, that was the same thing. Well, see, that's the thing. Like it's like the improv club was also with the sister school, so that's how I found my way there too. And then the guys kept up improv after we graduated. I didn't really. I always liked to write more than I did like perform.
Right.
And so improv is the exact opposite of that. You don't write anything, you just perform. So those guys, when they did the Tenderloins improv shows and stuff, I was really in the audience more.
How'd you become part of the group?
Well, I was friends with them. I would go see their shows and hang out, I mean, look, when your friends are on stage and there's only 10 people in the audience, there's not much difference between, you're all just sort of hanging out. Occasionally I would go up just because, like I said, it's all friends. Everybody was just goofing and stuff like that. But I never really wanted to perform like they did.
What changed your mind?
Nothing. I still don't. I never really, like when we sold Impractical Jokers, we got an offer from truTV and we got an offer from MTV to make the show. And MTV was going to buy the format from us. And every week was going to be a new cast of teenagers. It was going to be like a game show.
Okay.
Interesting. truTV was like, well, look, we don't have MTV money, so we'll pay you less, but we'll want you guys to be on the show. And so we took a vote, and I got outvoted 3-1. and we went to True. I was like, guys, we could just get checks in the mail. I was like, that'd be it. I mean, I was spectacularly wrong. I couldn't have been more wrong. Like, I was never more happy to be outvoted ever.
So when you look back,
Yeah.
what made that magic?
I think it's just because we were kind of doing what everybody does with their friends in some form or another. And we didn't ask you to think. Like, I think that was always the magic of the show. Like, you don't have to think about anything. You could just watch the show and laugh. There's no messages being delivered or anything like that on Practical Jokers. And then I think the other thing is both men and women, like, I think everybody acts their friends the way we act towards our friends on TV. It's just we're just busting each other's balls and reminds everybody of what they do with their friends.
Were you known for doing like practical jokes or challenging each other or anything like that?
No, again, like I wouldn't say practical jokes, but we were known for like busting each other's chops and stuff like that, and like making stupid bets with each other and shit like that, just to mess and pass the time. But I wouldn't say like I was like put a whoopee cushion on each other's chairs or anything like that. It was nothing like that. It's just they're funny guys. They're really funny guys. So it's like everything's a bit, everything's a routine. You know what I mean? It's funny.
So what's the first Impractical Jokers style thing you remember doing?
When we shot a pitch tape for the show called Mission Uncomfortable. We called it Mission Uncomfortable. And that was it. That's when we bought those little pen spy cams for like $49, and they take like 2 minutes of footage.
Yeah.
And like we put them in our pockets and we recorded off our cell phones and whatnot. And we came up with the format of Impractical Jokers kind of on the fly around Times Square and the stores and everything over there. And then, so that was it. That was the first time we ever did anything like that.
Did you feel any kind of spark when you did that? Like, oh, this is going to work. This is great.
Well, we were just no, I don't think I've ever done anything that I've been like, this is going to work. You know what I mean? Like my brain doesn't work that way. I think what it was like, we're having fun. This is fun. And there's nobody giving us notes. There's nobody telling us anything. So what we're making is exactly what we want to make.
So let's rewind a little bit. You graduate from high school in
94. Yeah.
Okay. Then you went to Brooklyn College. What'd you study?
Briefly, I went to John Jay College first for criminal justice, and I lasted about a semester, or half a semester with that. And then I went to Brooklyn College for TV and radio. And then I left that. I just didn't stick with college. I think if I went away, I would have had a better time with it. But something about getting up every day in my parents' house and going to another school didn't really hook me.
So did you never graduated from college?
No, I believe I have enough credits to get an associate degree, but I've not yet done the paperwork on that.
Something tells me that it's not all that.
I'm not too worried about it. Yeah, I don't even know what the degree would be in, but it'd be funny if it was accounting or something like that.
What was the plan when you left college?
My plan was to get on the police department, do my time until I got called for the fire department, and transfer over to the fire department, start the city clock going, because the time on the NYPD counts as that time on the FDNY.
Oh, okay.
So you get that time going. You got to do 20 years before you get your pension, 5 years on FDNY. I mean, the police carry over to the cops. So I figured get that clock started. So that was really the plan. And I wanted to write. Like, I just loved writing. So like I would write screenplays and like little stories and stuff like that. But I don't think that I ever thought that they would actually turn into anything.
Did they?
No, not really. I was right.
You were right. Was the fire department, the police department, was that kind of a family thing?
No, not really. My father was he drove subways in Manhattan. He was a motorman in New York City, driving the subways around. It was just, I mean, a cool job. Who doesn't want to be a fireman? You know?
Right.
And then I really wanted to be a Ghostbuster. And you can't. But they live in a firehouse.
That's true.
Which is kind of cool. Right. But yeah, I don't know. You know, and then after 9/11 too, it was like, even if there was any doubt of what I wanted to do, like that was, after 9/11, it was definitely like, well, you know, they're not shipping me off to the desert to fight, so I got to do something type thing.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that. So, as we're both New Yorkers, there's no explaining the emotion of being a New Yorker when that happened.
No.
Right. How much of an impact did that have on? Did it just sort of solidify your desire to go to the fire department?
I wouldn't say solidify because I would have done it anyway, but it was definitely like, yes, that's what I got to do.
Yeah. So as we sit talking right now, we're sitting in the shadow of the Freedom Tower.
Yeah.
What's your relationship with the World Trade Center?
Well, I wasn't there on 9/11. Like, I got on in 2005 after it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I want to be really clear about that. Yeah. Like, I was not there. Well, when I came on, it was like, well, just as a New Yorker, I still haven't gone to it. Like, my office is right across the street, but I still haven't gone over to the footprints to look at it yet. I just am not ready, And I don't even mean that like a dramatic, painful way, but it's just not there yet to go see it.
Where were you? Where were you stationed?
Oh, my firehouse?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Ladder 86, Andrew 166, Ladder 86, at Richmond Avenue on Staten Island.
What's the most dangerous situation you were ever in as a fireman?
I was on a roof on a car garage, like an auto repair shop, and I had the roof position, which means I had to get up on the top of the building and cut open a vent hole. Right, that's your one job up there. And I go up there with my OV guy, and we're on the roof, and it's already like burning through, like the tar's already boiling. It's already burning through the roof, and we were like, he gave the report that like, look, there are flames already ripping through the roof. It's not a safe roof. We can't go on the roof, right? Following protocol. And then somebody inside the shop starts screaming on the mic that they need that roof open. They're like, we need the roof open. We need it now. It's getting fucking hot in there. So the two of us were like, we got it. We can't not cut the roof. So we got to go do this. So we get out, we go along the ridge of the roof and, check the wind, make sure we're cutting in the right direction. And we start cutting the roof, and instantly the ceiling just collapses right underneath us. And there was a Jeep Cherokee on a lift that was up, and we fell onto the Jeep Cherokee. Like, we fell like 3 feet onto the Jeep Cherokee, and the wood was burning and the car was burning, and I had the saw was still going, like, you know what I mean? The blade was still going. So I'm holding it out here, and my buddy, the other guy, scampers out of the hole, and he just grabs me and he drags me out, and I drags me out over the thing, and it was like a hand of flame just came up and reached us and stuff like that. But that hole that we broke through vented the room as if we had done our job. How cool is that?
What was your favorite thing about being a fireman?
Oh, it's the guys. I think that's like not even there's not even like the second thing is going to fires, but it was just the guys in the house, man. It's like it becomes more than a family instantly. It's like they're your whole life in a lot of ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So how would you equate the relationships that you had at the firehouse to the relationships that you have with the guys that you're on TV with?
Well, look, the guys I'm on TV with, I've known 30 something years now. So there's that same history and sense of like love for each other. It's pretty similar. Everybody has this real respect and love for each other on the crew of the show.
Did you just assume that fire department, that's just going to be your life? You'll retire with your pension and
yeah,
that'll be it?
I always thought I would do 25 years. I was like, great, I'll do 25 years. I'll be retired. I'll still be in like my early 40s or early 50s. Yeah, I just thought what I would do. I thought it was going to be like a 20-year frat house with my boys, and then I'll retire, and then I'll be the old guy coming in the firehouse, like telling stories that nobody gives a shit about or stealing the coffee. You know what I mean? Those guys that come in, I love those guys. Like nobody in the house has even worked with them. That's how long they've been off the job, and they still come in like they own the place. I was looking forward to being that guy.
At what point during your career as a fireman did it start shifting? Like, did you start thinking, maybe I'll explore a little bit more in comedy? My friends are doing this thing.
No, what we were doing was we were making these sketch videos, like filmed comedic sketches for this. NBC was having a contest called It's Your Show, and the winner of it would win $100,000, and there were weekly prizes worth $10,000, and you had to submit these things. And me and Murr and Joe and Sal started making those videos and submitting them. And that I was still pretty new in the firehouse when this was going on. Like, so I started winning over some of the older guys by asking them to be in the sketches, and they're all hams. The best hams and the best comedians in the world are in a Firehouse, without a doubt. So that was like really the tipping point in my relationship with the Firehouse was when I had those guys be in some of the sketches.
Did you ever get any flack from the guys in Firehouse about, hey, funny boy, anything like that?
Yes, but only in a like a loving way. Like they would call me Hollywood, and they said it in the tone that you just said it, but they're saying it like, we love this guy. You know what I mean? They've always been so supportive and very proud. I've been lucky.
When the Impractical Jokers do live shows in New York, like they've sold out Madison Square Garden and Radio City Music Hall, they get an incredible amount of support from their hometown crowd. There's an inherent sense of ownership New Yorkers feel for the guys. But then they also sell out shows all over the country, so apparently everybody feels that connection. I asked Q why that is.
Yeah, we talk like Jim Gaffigan said it. Jim Gaffigan, the comedian. Mm-hmm. He said something about us that was ultimately very nice, but it wasn't. He goes. You know why people like that show, Impractical Jokers? Is he goes because they don't look like they should be on TV. He goes, they look like us. And I always thought that was a backhanded compliment, but a very nice. Like I was like, oh yeah, because people can lay claim to you because you just remind them of your buddies or your cousin or something like that. Nobody has a cousin like George Clooney. You know what I mean? Right. Everybody's got cousins like, us.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
So you didn't actually become a member of the Tenderloins until 2006.
Yeah.
Right. And you were already established in your firefighting career.
Yeah.
Did you think it was just for fun? Was there some sort of a bigger plan?
There's no way to plan for where we ended up. I think the idea for us for me was let's pitch show ideas and sell some shows, and that'd be a good side job. Not we'll be on a show.
So it was only a side hustle.
I love it. Yeah, I just thought I'd be with the fire department. How hard is it? Plus, we didn't get on television. We were 36 when Impractical Jokers started. So it's like that. We weren't like naive young guys who were like, we're going to take on the world. We already been kicked around a little bit by life. So I don't think that we were like, this is going to work out to the best of everybody's wildest dreams or anything like that.
When was the first time that you thought that this comedy thing might actually be a viable career path?
First season and a half of Jokers, I was still working in the Firehouse. And that was a really hard schedule because then I would like shoot during the day. And then at night, I would go to the Firehouse working overnight and go right back to set the next morning and then go back to the Firehouse after shooting on set.
This went on for 2 seasons of the show. Then, when it was picked up for a 3rd season, Brian applied for a leave of absence from the fire department, and his application was rejected. It turned out the fire department was trying to protect its image, and it wasn't allowing anyone to leave to do TV.
I thought that I wasn't going to be on the show. No problem. And then Casey and Colin Jost's mother, Dr. Kelly, who is the first female chief in the history of the New York City Fire Department. She's the head of the medical division. Legend. Casey tells his mother what was going on, unbeknownst to me. And then 3 days later, I get a phone call. I'm at the Firehouse. Hi, this is Chief Gala. Your leave has been approved. And I was like, what? I was like, what happened? And he goes, in 20-something years of knowing and being friends with Dr. Kelly, she's never once asked me for a favor. He goes, so if you're good for her, you're good for me. And I was like, wow.
So do you feel like you owe her?
Oh, yeah.
The success that followed after?
I say it all the time. Absolutely. Like there would be no show. And then, then her son, Casey, starts working on the show with us. He's been with us every episode from day one.
Yeah.
And as much as we owe the show to his mother, we owe it to him because Casey comes in with us day one and putting in his heart into it and his brand of comedy into it and stuff like that. So yeah, this show is a lot to that family.
Talk to me about the flashpoint when you finally made the decision to leave the fire department. How hard was that?
Well, the leave was hard, but also exciting because I knew I in my heart I was like, even if we do the show for 2 or 3 years, I can come back to this. So I had a safety net, and it was a safety net that I couldn't wait to get back to. The real trouble came when season 5 came out. our contract ended at 5, so we didn't know if we had season 6.
Right.
And I went to truTV and said, "Look, like, I have to go back to my leave of absence is up all 4 years on this date. You have to let me know if we have another season before that date." And they said, "Yep, no problem." They came back and they said, we're going to sign you for 6 and 7. And then I went back and said, "Okay, well, that means I have to leave the fire department. So tell me what'll happen if I don't do the show. Can they do the show without me?" And True at the time said, "If it's not all 4 of you, we're going to cancel the show."
So there's an inherent risk with being a firefighter.
Yeah.
Right. But there's also a risk in leaving that career to pursue comedy. And then there's like a whole nother kind of risk in doing what you do on TV. Right. It's a different kind of risk. Do you consider yourself a risk taker?
No, not really. Because if you look at it, like, I would say that I actually look like a little bit of a scaredy cat when you add it all up, because, like, did the fire department, had the leave of absence safety net, so there really was no risk there. And then when you say leave to do comedy, like, I was already on a hit show for 5 seasons. So that safety net was there. You know what I mean? They ordered season 6 and 7, so we knew we were doing another 50-something episodes of the TV show. So really it was like pretty safe lily pad to lily pad, yeah.
Your leave of absence was up. You had to make a decision.
Had to make a decision, and then even that occurred in a weird way, because I had made the decision that I was going to leave it, and I was like, that day we were shooting on Staten Island, at the College of Staten Island, and we had to shoot a punishment. I had no idea what it was. That's how it goes on punishment days most of the times. But I said, after we're done shooting, I'm going to go to the Firehouse, and I'm going to tell the guys that I'm leaving, and start planning the party and start doing all that stuff. And that was really emotional for me. It was hard. And then we get there, and it turns out to be the punishment was a play about my life and how I used to be a fireman, but now I'm kind of useless. And they wrote this whole play about how I used to be, like, helpful to society, and now, like, I'll turn away saving children to sign an autograph and shit like that. So they were really ripping on me. So on the day that I was going to essentially retire, that's what the play is about, which is funny. But then the real kicker was the curtain opens and the audiences made 100% of my Firehouse. I turn away and it looks like I'm laughing, but I started crying because I was just hit me. And then after we wrapped, they were all hanging out there. One of the guys just started playing Tiny Dancer by Elton John, and all the Firehouse guys in the audience started singing it. And then the crew started singing it. And I was like, this is fucking beautiful, man. What a way. And then I told the guys that I was retiring.
So you left the fire department. Now you're doing the show. It's well established. You've had to do some seriously uncomfortable things on camera.
Yeah.
What's the most uncomfortable that you've had to do?
We shot an episode in Universal Studios in California, and I got punished. And it was, do you ever go to that tram ride they do there?
Yeah.
Okay, it's a tram ride. It's like 5 trams hooked up to each other, and there's a tour guide in the front seat, and they do a backlot tour, and they drive all the Back to the Future set, the Old West sets. You know, they drive into like the Fast and the Furious. They show all this backlot stuff. And on that ride, if you drop something, there's like a pull cord, like they used to have on trains and buses that you pull, you're getting off on the stop, and they have to stop the tram for you to get your stuff, but you're not allowed to get off the tram to do it. So now everybody has to wait till security comes, pick up the sunglasses and hand it to you, and then the ride could go. And this is me shooting myself in the foot, because that happened to me when I was at Universal one time. This woman dropped her sunglasses, and I said in the writer's room, I was like, man, it would be nuts if we can mess with that ride and just have, you know, whoever I thought would do it, Murray, like have him stop it and keep dropping stuff off the ride. And, we can't do it. And it turns out they can do it. They took the idea and they used it against me. And so what should have been a 45-minute ride was like 2 hours and 15 minutes. And the reasons that I had to give for stopping it were the guys were giving at me. So on the third time when I'm ruining everybody's ride, I'd be like, could you back the tram up? I want to get a picture of the McFly house or whatever. And people hated me. The hatred I felt from every angle, like little kids were looking at me and like muttering under their breath. One father stood up and was like, when we get off this ride, he goes, I'm going to fucking find you. He goes, and people just openly hated me. And I'd have to pull it again and give another bullshit reason. And like, it was the most uncomfortable. I've never been the focus of just hate. Hatred.
Like a throng of people too, not just a couple of people.
Everybody hated me, and it went on for over 2 hours. So that was rough.
That's pretty awful.
That's the worst one.
Do you get recognized a lot? You fairly anonymous walking around?
Yeah. In New York, yeah. I can go to California and nobody will know who I am. That's great.
Talk to me about the courage it takes to do some of the uncomfortable things that you have to do on Impractical Jokers versus the courage it takes to run into a burning building.
Oh, I mean, I don't even think they're comparable. I mean, Impractical Jokers is just like fun, you know? And I don't know. I don't even think they're in the same ballpark. I don't know many firemen that think of themselves as courageous. You know what I mean? I don't know if they would define it that way.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think, a civilian would look and go, yeah, these guys are courageous. They run into burning buildings all the time.
And I'm not crazy. I get that. I understand that. And they should feel that way. I agree. But I think I think most firemen would just be like, and maybe that's why they're good firemen, but they're kind of like, yeah, of course I would. You know what I mean? Like that's the job. That's
right.
That's what it is. I never really caught too many guys patting themselves on their back or anything like that.
What would you say to somebody who wants to pursue a lower probability career like you did, but they have a stable job, they got plenty of job security, benefits, and they're afraid to leave?
Like I said, I approached it the kind of cowardly way, but like, I think there's always ways to keep going. I think a person will know when it's time to make a decision or a change. But until that moment comes where you know for a fact that it's the time to leave, just keep doing it because you like doing it. That's all. Don't do anything you don't like to do. Why the fuck would you do anything you don't like to do?
Spending an afternoon with Brian Quinn is so much fun, and almost as much fun as watching him have fun on TV. What did you think, Andy?
Great episode, Scott. Really enjoyed it. I did want to ask you here, Brian Quinn obviously has made a really interesting leap from his role in the Firehouse to his role on TV, but it felt like an interview a little less about trauma, challenges, and barriers, which we often profile. This felt a little bit more like simple luck.
You're not wrong. There definitely was a lot of luck involved, but I wouldn't say that he didn't have challenges along the way, right? I mean, there was the leaves of absence and working long hours at the Firehouse while he was also shooting the show, but then he had to face down these really difficult decisions about his future, right? Do I go back to the Firehouse? Do I go do the show with my friends? Are they going to renew us? Where is the success going to happen? And I do think he had to take a couple of leaps of faith along the way, but I'm pretty sure he's pretty pleased with the way it all worked out.
Obviously, he's enjoying the fame and the success of Impractical Jokers, but you also get the sense in this interview that he really misses the camaraderie of the Firehouse.
Totally true. He was abundantly clear that those relationships at the Firehouse were what it was all about, and then it was about putting out fires. But I think that he's found a good proxy for that kind of relationship with the crew and the friends that he's been working with over the past 10 years on Impractical Jokers. So while he is still friends with the guys from the Firehouse, he hasn't really truly lost that family relationship dynamic that I think really fuels his soul.
Well, Scott, thank you so much for introducing us to Brian Quinn. Why don't you take this episode home?
Sure thing. Andy and I are always on the lookout for new people to profile on Second Act Stories. If you'd like to suggest a candidate, we want to hear about it. Visit our website at www.secondactstories.org. Click on the Nominate a Guest box at the top of the homepage and send it in. If you like the show, we want you to rate us. That helps other people find it, and we're always grateful for anybody who spreads the word. We hope you'll keep listening. There are more second act stories just around the corner.